Welcome to Wellness Rebranded, the podcast for women ready to redesign their relationship with food, fitness, and feelings.
We are a registered dietitian, a personal trainer, and a mental health therapist. 3 experts, 1 mission.
To help you break free from diet culture, hustle culture, and emotional burnout, let's redefine what wellness really means on your terms.
Jukester. Fun, fast, fitness. Jukester's unpredictable motion trains you to see, think, and react faster than your competition. Jukester is a powerful coordination tool. It can be added to any exercise. Its patented movement strengthens the link between your body and brain. Jukester by Health and Fitness Technologies. Jukester. It's about to get real. Buy yours at jukester.com.
What up, guys? It's Tara here with Elizabeth, and today we are talking about 3 terms that get thrown around a lot, and I think there's a lot of confusion behind them. So body positivity, weight neutrality, and health at every size, or HAZE, are 3 things that we talk about a lot, but they have very distinct differences. So we wanted to do a quick episode today just to kind of explain the differences so that you know how they're being used in the world.
Also, I think a lot of people get turned off by these because they either A, don't understand what they mean, or they're so mischaracterized out in the world. And so we want to kind of chat through the nuances of them as well. Tara, I know there was a time where maybe you found some of these things confusing, and so maybe you should talk about that for a second.
I literally do still find them confusing half the time, but I feel like over the years, I have kind of shifted from calling myself body positive to more weight neutral because it didn't feel like it fit my philosophy as well as weight neutrality does. So I have lots of clients that come to me who do want to lose weight. And my philosophy is one of weight neutrality, which means to me that I help them develop healthy habits without an outward focus on intentional weight loss. That's kind of my approach. And I think a lot of people were getting kind of bogged down in, well, she's body positive, so she just wants me to love my body exactly how it is. And as much as I think that would be great, I recognize that people want to change their bodies. We want to get stronger, healthier, whatever. So it didn't exactly fit with who I am. And that's kind of why I made that like shift in how I talk about what I do.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I think that's also why the body positivity movement, which is certainly still out there as such, but it also morphed into the concept of body neutrality even. And that's because some of the critics of body positivity said, in many ways, rightfully so, that it makes it seem as though you always have to feel positive about your body, or that the goal has to be loving your body. And if you somehow don't or aren't able to do that, that you're doing it wrong. And also that it still is putting the emphasis on our bodies, right? And the idea of liking them. And body neutral makes space for more people of like, you don't have to like your body, and it's even okay to dislike your body. I mean, we hope you don't, but can you get to a neutral space around it? Can you get to feeling neutral where the emphasis just isn't even on your body as much and its appearance? If that makes any sense. It kind of reminds me of when celebrities get all sorts of hate or criticisms or comments about their bodies. And it's like, hey, can we just actually talk about that singer's amazing talent and not their body?
I actually read something yesterday about Lizzo, who, as many of you may know, has been a variety of sizes over the years. And she is an amazing artist, whether she is at her heaviest or whether she's at her lightest or anywhere in between. And I feel like it kind of covers up the importance of her success by constantly talking about what her body looks like. Like, her talent is amazing regardless. And I feel like body positivity can feel a little bit performative with things like that. Like we're using it almost as a way to talk about like, well, I'm body positive. So implying that we don't care about our health, and I just don't think that really hits the mark.
And I think a lot of people felt like the term body positivity got co-opted too, because it really started as a fat liberation movement, and then it morphed into something that a whole lot of other people were talking about and in a different way, which was confusing. But yeah, it's demeaning when people are just focusing on what your body looks like instead of your talents and skills and character and personality and all of the things, just picking up on that Lizzo thread. I think another thing that's equally as confusing to people when they move into the intuitive eating anti diet culture space is health at every size. Because a lot of people think that that means that what the movement is saying is that people are healthy at every size. And that's actually not at all what it's saying. It's saying that people at every size have a right to respectful, compassionate, evidence-based care, and that people can be healthy at any size, right? Or it doesn't mean that we're all healthy at every size.
When I think of the difference between health at every size and body positivity, I usually think of body positivity as more like has some activism type roots, and health at every size is more like a medical necessity, right? Everyone of every size deserves compassionate care.
It's more social justice aligned, right?
I think it's often like misunderstood, and people think that we're just like ignoring our health when we're talking about health at every size. I feel like every now and then people will kind of label me as a health at every size trainer, which I'm not mad about, but I've not actually been through the health at every size training. But I think what really like stands out to me is that as a trainer, I try to make all of my clients, regardless of their body size, feel like they are being heard, that they are being understood, and that they can use all the equipment appropriately. You know, like not every machine is built for every woman or every person. For example, there are machines that do like preacher curls that totally squish your boobs. You know, no matter what size you are, that's going to happen. And there are other machines where, like, if you are in a larger body, you're probably not going to be very comfortable in the machine. So, part of my job as a weight neutral or Haze aligned personal trainer is knowing which equipment is going to be the right thing for each person. And I think that's really what Hayes focuses on, is just getting like equality of healthcare no matter what your size is. Do you think that's accurate, Elizabeth?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, it is definitely one of the elements or principles of it is about getting, equipment and skills in medical and healthcare settings that are appropriate for all people in all bodies and providing compassionate care and informed consent. And, I think of it as really, I think it's confusing. I just had this conversation with a client yesterday. And it came up a lot. She said, I'm really getting stuck in this idea of I want to be an intuitive eater. I don't really like my body right now. I desperately want to lose weight. And I'm stuck thinking, is there any way that I can follow the principles of intuitive eating and lose weight? But then I also feel guilty for even thinking about that way that I want to. Like I'm supposed to accept my body and therefore I'm not being a good steward of the movement if I do that. And I have nothing but compassion for anyone that thinks that because I think there's so much nuance missing in the online world. And I can totally see how it would seem like you have to make a choice between the two. And my answer to her was no, not at all. You don't, that's sort of a false choice. It's okay for it to be messy. It's okay for you to want to learn the principles of intuitive eating and how to apply them to your life and want to focus on health behaviors and want to be more accepting of your body. And also, you still have a deep desire to lose weight, and you're allowed to show up messy and imperfect and confused and all the things. Like, there's absolutely space for you here.
Yeah, like we're human beings, right? We all have emotions. If Maria was here, she would absolutely jump in on that. We all have emotions, and all of those emotions are valid, and we're allowed to feel what we feel. And frankly, it's hard to not want to lose weight in the society that we're in. If you're in a larger body, like the noise is very loud. Diet culture screams at us. So, completely understandable emotions. I feel like having a provider like you, Elizabeth, that understands that and respects it in spite of the movement being whatever it is, I think is really like helpful for people.
Well, right back at you, you too. One thing that I want to say in this episode is that we're all on a learning journey, right? And so if our interpretation of it is slightly different than yours, or we've made some sort of mistake in any of the way we're characterizing it, forgive us, because we're all doing our best to learn the different things. And so I just wanted to point that out to like especially for anyone listening to, if you're confused by some of the concepts or the terms that get thrown around, it's okay. We're all learning and evolving and growing. Another concept that I think gets really confusing for people is what it means to provide weight neutral healthcare. I think a lot of times people look at that or hear about it and they think, well, how can that be healthy? If my doctor told me that I need to lose weight and then I'm not going to focus on losing weight and they said my BMI is whatever, then that can't possibly be healthy. And and kind of the concept of weight neutrality in healthcare is one, getting informed consent, right? Because all too often people in larger bodies go into a medical setting and they're told to lose weight for anything, and that's not what they were actually there asking for. Um, but also, it's about recognizing that weight and health aren't the same thing, and that putting the emphasis on weight in that setting often does a lot of harm, leads to disordered eating and body image struggles and all or nothing behaviors and frustration and being in the diet cycle, and that there's another way to go about approaching it, which is recognizing that the BMI is BS. We have a whole episode on that actually. Um, and putting the emphasis on healthy behaviors, and that none of any of this means that it's also it's also anti-weight loss, which is something I find myself explaining a lot. Intuitive eating, weight neutral, none of this is meant to be anti-weight loss. It's just not about making weight loss the primary focus or the primary goal. It's about improving health.
I feel like that is the thing that I explain the most often to new clients. Like frequently when I meet someone who doesn't have any idea who I am, I'll explain that I'm a weight neutral trainer and what that means. And the first thing they usually say is, "Well, I want to lose weight." And it's like, "Yeah, cool." Like I'm not anti-weight loss. I'm just anti helping you develop an eating disorder. Helping you develop a disordered exercise movement routine. So I really think that weight neutrality is the kind of title that captures what I do best, where I'm going to help you be healthy. And I don't care what your body looks like or what size you are. I just want to help you make healthy choices for your body.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's also important to say that it's also about reducing weight stigma and fat phobia and
Yes.
fat bias in healthcare settings, particularly, but really in all the settings, and emphasizing, you know, respect for body diversity, that bodies do come in all shapes and sizes, and that is never going to change. We shouldn't try to make it, we're not, we shouldn't be trying to make every body be in the same thin package. Like, it's just not realistic. It's not respectful, and it's frankly harmful. And so all of these concepts are also about having respect for body diversity and trying to dismantle weight stigma, and especially in healthcare settings, because if nowhere else, everybody should feel safe and get the best, most compassionate, most respectful, most kind of equal care there.
It feels so shitty that we even have to say that out loud. Like, hello, of course we all deserve the same quality of care regardless of what our body size is. Like, that's crazy, but that is a big part of the reason why Elizabeth and I and Maria do what we do is because we feel very strongly that like all humans matter and that we should be all receiving good health care no matter what we look like. So to just kind of wrap it up, unless you have something else, Elizabeth, in in summary, body positivity is kind of like feeling good about your body with like activist grassroots kind of um, history. Hayes is advocating for health without weight stigma, and then weight neutrality is where weight isn't the focus of your health journey.
One other thing that I think is really important to say is, like, a misconception people have about all of this is that if you start down this path, that it means you're giving up on your health. And I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't just like put a fine point on that. Just because you decide to work on body acceptance, or because you want to have more respect for your body, or you want to have a weight neutral approach, or any of that, it doesn't mean that you're giving up on yourself or your health. You're not letting go. You're actually leaning into caring for your body a different, more, hopefully more impactful way.
Elizabeth, let me ask you one more question. I know that when I first met you, you often called yourself an anti-diet dietitian, but I noticed you don't use that terminology so often anymore. Is there a reason why you kind of switched?
Oh gosh, I feel like now I'm being put on the spot. I didn't know that was gonna happen. There is a reason, and I think it's because there's so much nuance missing from online conversations and the voices on both sides of the equation, the diet culture equation and the anti-diet equation, I find can be very loud and very extreme, and they don't sometimes leave room for um what's the way to say it? I feel like they're not as inclusive as they could be or I would like them to be. And so I just sort of backed away from it a little bit. It's not that I don't align with it. I don't know. I felt like people were being either left out or shamed, or the conversation was unnecessarily harsh in a lot of times.
I see that too. And sorry to put you on the spot, but I totally vibe with that. So I wanted you to be the one to like bring that up because I've never called myself an anti-diet anything, but I do see how like the extremes are just hurting everyone, you know? So in closing, I think it would be helpful for you to kind of just notice the lens that your healthcare providers are using. Do they fall into like a haze aligned? Or body positive, weight neutral, or are they swinging the other direction into diet culture? I'm not saying you have to do anything about it, but maybe just notice what your practitioners are using.
Yeah, and notice your own thoughts and feelings about it. And it's totally okay to have some ambivalence or cognitive dissonance around it. And to like, that doesn't mean you're not invited into the space. You are. And just getting curious is really powerful. And also, these conversations are so nuanced, there's so much to them. We just probably barely scratched the surface. So, if you have follow-up questions or things you wish we would have talked about or things that you're confused about or frankly frustrated about or whatever it is, reach out and let us know. We want to hear from you and we'll craft an episode around it.
Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara DeLeon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.